That's certainly what Democrats are saying, not surprisingly. They put up some billboards around the Capitol Hill Club, which is the Republican fundraising building in which Trump was meeting with lawmakers. Not surprisingly, they were taunting him, trying to troll him, you might say. I don't know if that's going to make much difference, but it's certainly the message Democrats want to tie congressional Republicans to Trump, particularly those 18 House Republicans sitting in districts that President Biden won in 2020.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with magazine editor David Mark. And David, Donald Trump met with congressional Republicans this week in Washington, D.C. Tell us about what that meeting was about.
Yeah, this was Trump's first return to Capitol Hill since January 6, 2021. Yeah, he kept his distance there. So it was a meeting, mostly House members, some senators actually along with him, trying to get everybody unified ahead of the fall election, in which the former president is about to become the Republican nominee. He was there to, in some ways, talk about policy, but mostly just encouraging rank-and-file Republicans to support him. And it seemed, coming out of the meeting, that's what they were doing.
Does this risk reinforcing this Democratic narrative that Donald Trump is pulling the strings and anything congressional Republicans do is a reflection of him? You know, we heard that a lot with the failed bipartisan border bill. That wasn't necessarily the case. But does this risk feeding into that?
That's certainly what Democrats are saying, not surprisingly. They put up some billboards around the Capitol Hill Club, which is the Republican fundraising building in which Trump was meeting with lawmakers. Not surprisingly, they were taunting him, trying to troll him, you might say. I don't know if that's going to make much difference, but it's certainly the message Democrats want to tie congressional Republicans to Trump, particularly those 18 House Republicans sitting in districts that President Biden won in 2020.
Do you think that Donald Trump, polls suggest a slightly better than even chance of winning right now?
Yeah.
Do you think that with polling like that, and if these trends continue, will Trump have coattails for those Republicans?
You know, it's interesting. A lot of the Senate races, the contested ones, are actually showing the Democratic candidates up. That's a long way to go, but that's like Ruben Gallego in Arizona, Bob Casey in Pennsylvania, several others. There's a whole bunch of bunch of time before that, many months to go. House side is a little hard to tell because it's hard to get good polling on House races in the first place. The generic ballot is more favoring Republicans at this point. You've got to think, though, that we are in an age of such divided government. I happen to think if Trump wins, he will pull along the Republican Senate and House with him. If Biden wins, Congress will go Democratic. I just think it's going to be one way or another.
There's been lots of talk about what the Democrats refer to as Project 2025, just the Republican agenda in general.
Yeah.
It's not being formulated by the Trump campaign, but by the Heritage Foundation and some other groups. There's a lot of misinformation about it. But what do you think are some of the biggest policy vulnerabilities that are probably under discussion today that Republicans are most sweating?
Probably abortion. That's the number one issue that Democrats are going after Republicans on generally in this campaign. And just from what we've heard from Project 2025 and some of these affiliated groups, there's efforts to come up with proposals to block what can go in the mail and this and that in terms of birth control. I don't even know all the details on it, but that kind of thing to really find workarounds so that it's not state by state, but more of a national issue. I think that's an issue, that's a matter Democrats are going to emphasize a whole lot these next few months.
Well, David, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
You can get more writing from David and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.